Ghost of Yotei might be the most confident game I have played in years. It doesn't try to reinvent Ghost of Tsushima. It doesn't need to actually. Instead, it takes everything that worked, pushes it forward, and just shows what's the next most natural step to the franchise. And honestly, that is kind of refreshing, because we have reached this weird point where every new game has to carry the label of reinventing something. Every big release is marked like it's doing something like it has never been done before. It's the best of that, and this is the revolution of this, and all of that marketing stuff. Yotei doesn't bother with that. It just doubles down on being a really good sequel and a really good game. So, in this video, I want to break down what makes Ghost of Yotei such a strong follow-up. The combat, the world, the atmosphere, the progression, where it stumbles, and ultimately, why it feels so great as a game. How does it play? I guess that's the most important question. The short version is, combat feels incredible. It's sharp, it's deliberate, and satisfying in a way that few modern action games manage to nail. From the very first duel, the game makes it clear that you're not going to be mashing buttons. Every swing of the sword needs to be calculated somehow. Every dodge or parry has this audible snap that makes you feel it. You don't just win fights here, you need to earn them, especially if you are playing on higher difficulties like I was. The combat system builds off what Ghost of Tsushima already did well. The parry timing is tight, but it's fair. The dodges have just the right invulnerability frames, and even the way you swap stances feel quicker. But now they are not stances. They are actually weapon switches that essentially does the same as stances in Tsushima. You have some weapons that are better against certain types of opponents, allowing to break their stance faster. And this all ties into something subtle but crucial, which is momentum. When you play well, the game rewards you by letting you stay aggressive. That's what makes it fun to master. You're not just reacting, you are pushing forward in each battle. And although the enemies will never attack at the same time to always give you an opportunity to either parry or dodge, sometimes they attack just quick enough to make it harder, and even if you're in the middle of an animation, you can still counter it. So the game is really fair in this difficulty in its combat. And of course, it's not all about direct combat. Like Tsushima before it, stealth plays a big role. Stealth in an open world game can be hit or miss. Too often it's either way too overpowered or completely pointless. Yotei tries to find a nice balance. You are never forced into it, but when you choose stealth, it feels viable and satisfying overall. What I like is that stealth isn't treated as a lesser playstyle. It has its own rhythm, its own gadgets, sneaking through tall grass, timing a chain assassination, or distracting a guard with tools. It all fits really natural into the game's pacing. It's not perfect, as sometimes it can feel a bit unfair getting seen on specific situations, but it works really well overall. And when things go wrong, which they will, the transition from stealth to combat feels seamless. You are not punished with a failed mission screen or anything like that. You are punished with a room full of angry enemies who are totally ready to kill you. That blend of choice is what makes the game flexible. Really flexible sometimes. Some fights I ended like a ghost, trying to never get spotted. Others turned into a full-on battle. Both of that felt right. Both felt like they belonged in this world of Ghost of Yotei. And it allows you to explore the world as you want, essentially. And while combat might be the highlights, the exploration is the backbone of the entire game. But let me explain. Because exploration here feels way better than Tsushima. That might sound boring, but it's one of the game's greatest strengths. But the real trick is how the game pushes you to explore without shoving icons in your face. There are no bloated maps stuffed with a billion waypoints and making everything feel like a checklist. And that was actually my main issue with Tsushima, and why I didn't end up getting the platinum on it. Cleaning the map just felt a bit like a chore, you know, you just go to point A, to point B, do the same things over and over and over again. It felt boring in the end. Instead, the world feels way more alive, way more natural. There are these little random events, like getting attacked, protecting villagers, or even just finding something. It feels real, like it could actually be there in the real world. And in the end, if you win that situation, you can ask questions that will mark something in the map. Sometimes it marks the precise location. Other times, only the approximate location, a bit like Tsushima had it. These little environmental cues make the world feel alive and worth exploring. You don't need to force yourself to check every corner as curiosity becomes second nature. And more often than not, exploration actually rewards you. Sometimes it's resources, sometimes it's an upgrade, and this is for me the main upgrade from Tsushima to Yotei. Although it might still be a checklist in the end, it doesn't feel as much as one. This is where I think Ghost of Yotei shines brightest, in the atmosphere it creates. A lot of games can hit you with fancy graphics and realistic lighting, but atmosphere is harder. It's intangible stuff, it's the tone, it's pacing, and how it all comes together. And Yotei does it really well. The weather isn't just like a cosmetic stuff, it shifts the mood of entire areas. NPCs don't just stand around, waiting to give you little fetch quests. Even that small details hit. And, going back to weather, it feels supernatural and unnatural at the same time due to how well it is made. And going from a super sunny day to an overcast or even a storm, it almost transforms one place into another completely different. That makes the experience feel more authentic and gruesome at the same time. Now let's talk about progression. Upgrades and resources matter. You will be farming flowers, gathering materials, and managing your gear a lot of times. But it's not grindy. It happens naturally as you pick up everything when you're just navigating the map. You are encouraged to farm resources not just to tick boxes, but because upgrades generally matter. Your gear evolves with you, your abilities expand, and there are a lot of abilities in this game. Prepare to be somewhat overwhelmed with the endgame combats, due to the sheer amount of abilities and different key combinations you will be able to use. We can talk about Yotei without talking about Tsushima. The two games are linked, and I mean, after all, it's an indirect sequel. But here's the thing, Yotei isn't just Tsushima 2, it's something different. Where Tsushima was about honor, war and duty, Yotei feels more like a meditation on legacy, survival, and mainly about revenge. The themes are different, the tone is different, and even the pacing feels different. And yes, the DNA is obvious, but it feels more as an expansion to the world that Tsushima set up, rather than a direct sequel, if that makes sense. But it's actually not, because this game is set 329 years after the events of the first game, allowing for a big creative freedom to sucker punch when developing and writing it. And of course, no game is perfect, and Yotei isn't an exception. The story pacing can drag at times, and yes, certain enemy encounters start to repeat themselves a bit, especially the ones from the random events. The story, although good, it's one of the weakest points of the game in my opinion. I know some people love it, but it also surprises, but it's the kind of cliché revenge story, nothing groundbreaking. But remember that even though I said the weakest, it is still good and way above average. I will not touch on it to avoid spoilers, as the game barely just came out. And while the world is gorgeous, there are still occasional rough edges, like clunky animations or the occasional bug in movement and getting stuck between rocks. You know the type. But when Yotei is at its best, it is stunning. And it's one of the best games of the year, that I have no doubt. The combat flows, the world invites exploration, the atmosphere pulls you in. And the game as a whole feels like it has this quiet confidence, like it doesn't need to scream about how important it is to the industry. It just is, and that's rare. And it's why I think this game will stick with people long after they finish the main story. Here's what I keep coming back to. Yotei doesn't care about reinventing the wheel. It doesn't want to be the next big thing. It just wants to be itself. A polished, confident, atmospheric game that rewards your time. And in a gaming landscape that's constantly chasing trends and buzzwords, that kind of clarity feels bold from the studio. And I have a feeling that it will sell well and make Sucker Punch and PlayStation very happy. So, where does that leave Ghost of Yotei? It's not perfect, but it's also one of the most confident, atmospheric and satisfying open world action games I have played in a long time. It doesn't try to be Tsushima again. It doesn't try to be something it is not. It just pushes forward, step by step, with quiet confidence. And for me, that's enough.